Still air doesn't freeze. Moving air does.
The general store fell silent. Then the laughter started. Robert Vance had just declared his impossible plan. Frostbite was a town that respected winter's cruelty, where men who misjudged the cold did not get second chances. Nobody wintered on the ice.
You are planning to freeze to death in that leaky tub. Vance, that's not a home, it's a coffin.
Pa, please. You can't spend winter out there alone. The cold will kill you.
It's not the cold that kills Emily. It's the wind. Ice seals the hull. No wind, no freeze.
A frozen fool's suicide. You'll be a block of ice by December.
We'll see, Edward. The lake will be my wall.
Robert turned away from the stove's heat and walked out toward the frozen lake, where his boat awaited, encased in iron silence.
There goes the frozen fool. Let's see how long he lasts.
The frozen lake stretched white and silent, and at its edge, Robert Vance was already at work, caulking the seams of his boat with pitch and oakum.
Pa, I brought you some food. You can't do this. The whole town thinks you've lost your mind.
Let them think. Once this boat is locked in the ice, the wind will never touch me. Ice is a wall, Emily.
But what if the ice doesn't hold? What if it crushes the hull?
The wood will flex. The ice will seal every gap. It's not strength that matters, it's stillness. Moving air steals heat, not cold.
He truly believes it, unless he's just too stubborn to admit he's wrong.
You should go back before dark. The path across the ice will be treacherous once the cold deepens.
I hate leaving you out here alone. What if something goes wrong?
Nothing will go wrong if I do the work right. Go, Emily. Trust me.
She turned and walked back toward the distant lights of Frostbite, while Robert knelt again beside the hull, pressing oakum into a seam with unshakable precision. The cold deepened that night, and the lake answered. Ice crystals spread across the black water like veins of white lightning.
A few more hours and the hull will be locked solid. No wind, no freeze.
Might as well nail the coffin shut. You'll be a frozen puffball by morning.
We'll see, Edward. The ice doesn't lie.
Robert finished installing the stovepipe, then climbed inside the growing shell of ice. The boat creaked as the water hardened around it.
And now the real test begins.
The match flared, and soon the tiny stove began to glow. For the first time, warmth bloomed inside the ice-locked hull. By midnight, the boat was a dark silhouette encased in white. A pencil of smoke rose perfectly straight from the stovepipe into the motionless air.
No draft, not even a flicker. The ice is doing its work.
He settled in for the night, listening to the ice groan and pop as it tightened its grip, sounds that, to him, meant safety. A full week passed. The town had already eulogized Robert Vance in whispers, but Emily strapped on snowshoes and crossed the frozen lake, breath pluming in the bitter air.
Pa, I brought more food. Please tell me you are still breathing in there. It's warm in here. How is it possibly this warm inside an ice coffin?
The ice locks the hull. No wind can slip through. The lake isn't a threat. It's a fortress. Watch the flame. Not a flicker. Still air keeps the heat. Moving air steals it. That's what kills, not cold.
He's been right all along. The whole town was wrong.
She left the boat with a lighter step, but the moment she reached the snowy shore, Edward Croft blocked her path like a gate of bad news.
Visiting the frozen fool again? Has the ice melted his brain yet? Or is he still pretending that coffin is a home?
He's warmer than you'll ever be in that drafty cabin, Edward. Maybe you should open your ears instead of your mouth.
Emily pushed past him, but the venom in his laugh followed her. Doubt, cold and familiar, had already found the crack in her hope. An old timer pointed north and rasped, "Skies flattening, worst I ever saw."
Double walls and triple caulking in my cabin. I'll be sweating while you are all frozen solid.
That sky looks ready to swallow the whole valley.
Robert worked the seams with obsessive care, sealing even a hairline crack with mud until not a whisper of air could pass.
The storm will find any mistake. No seam can be left to chance.
Pa, the whole town says this storm will kill a man on land. What chance does a boat have?
The wind won't get in. That's all I need. Go back, Emily. This isn't your fight.
He checked the stovepipe one last time, then sealed the hatch, burying a flicker of unease under calm. The sky went iron gray, and the first heavy flakes began to fall. By dusk, the boat was a dark speck in a white world, smoke rising straight into the stillness. The blizzard slammed into the lake with a sound like a mountain splitting. Snow twisted horizontal, erasing the world beyond the porthole.
The hull shudders, but there's not a trace of moving air inside. The ice is a wall.
He moved the candle along every seam. The flame never flickered once, standing as straight as a soldier. Inside Edward Croft's cabin, the double walls were already losing the fight against the wind.
Should have built tighter. Double walls and triple caulking, and still the drafts find me.
He piled every blanket in the cabin onto his shoulders, but the drafts found every gap, every knothole, every crack. Frost crept inward across the glass, a white spider of cold that grew thicker by the minute.
Moving air steals heat. Still air holds it. As long as that flame stands tall, I am safe.
This cabin is a sieve. The wind's inside the walls, and there's no stopping it.
The boat, locked in ice, gave nothing to the wind. A single light glowed through the porthole like a promise. Edward's fire sputtered and died, the last red ember swallowed by an icy draft.
I am freezing solid. Another hour in this sieve, and I won't wake up. That boat light is still burning. Vance is alive out there, warm as a summer day. I have to reach that boat. It's the only warm place left on this lake.
He wrapped himself in every stitch of clothing he owned, tied a rope around his waist, and opened the door.
If the ice holds, if I don't freeze on the way, I might just make it.
The blizzard swallowed him whole. Wind screamed, snow slashed like tiny knives, and the world vanished into white.
Can't see anything. Not the shore, not the ice, just white.
The wind cut like glass, but he kept moving, one foot after the other, toward the faint dot of light that was his last chance.
Follow the light, one step at a time. Don't stop.
The ice groaned under his weight, a pressure ridge splitting the surface with a sound like a rifle crack. Edward stumbled, nearly fell into the white abyss.
That crack almost swallowed me. Keep going. The light's closer now.
Then the boat loomed through the white, a dark shape encased in ice. He fell against the frozen hull, pounding with numbed fists.
Vance, open up. I am freezing to death out here.
Inside, Robert froze. The perfect seal he had built was about to be broken. Outside, a man's life hung by a thread.
If I open that hatch, the wind gets in, but a man's out there.
The pounding grew weaker. Edward's hand left smears of blood on the ice.
Hold on. I am opening it.
The hatch flew open. A blizzard of snow and wind exploded inside, and Edward tumbled down, a frozen man crashing into the warmth. Robert slammed the hatch shut against the furious wind, plunging them into sudden, ringing silence. Robert immediately knelt beside Edward, peeling back frozen mittens to reveal bluish fingers.
Sit by the stove. Let the heat do its work. You are not going to lose any fingers tonight.
I thought I was dead. The wind, it had me.
He wrapped Edward's hands in a dry cloth, then checked the hatch seal where a thin draft still hissed.
How is there no wind in here? It's still as a grave, but warm.
Because the ice is my wall. Watch the flame.
He lifted the candle. The flame stood perfectly straight, not a flicker.
You were right, Vance. I was wrong. I called you a fool.
They packed the last of the draft with mud and cloth, and the silence returned, deep and absolute. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, Edward listened to the stillness, understanding for the first time what a real fortress felt like. Robert poured a cup of steaming coffee from the small pot and pressed it into Edward's trembling hands.
How is this possible? The ice isn't crushing the boat.
The ice doesn't stab, it seals. It melts against the hull and refreezes, closing every gap. No air, No draft.
Outside, the wind screamed like a freight train, but the candle flame on the shelf didn't so much as lean.
My cabin had double walls and triple caulking, and the frost still crawled inside.
Because you built for strength, not stillness. Wind doesn't need a big hole, just a path.
Robert pulled a dried strip of fish from a sack and laid it on the stove to warm.
Eat. We'll need every calorie before this storm is done.
They chewed the tough fish in silence, the blizzard clawing at the ice like a caged animal.
He didn't just build a shelter. He turned the lake itself into a wall.
Robert shifted to the far corner of the cabin and lifted a small floorboard, revealing a rectangular hole he had cut into the ice.
What is that? You've got a hole in the ice under the boat.
My larder. The lake keeps it cold, but not frozen solid. Fresh fish all winter.
A net full of silver fish gleamed in the dark water, perfectly preserved, their scales like polished metal.
Fresh food, the whole time. I thought you were living on dried leather and old coffee grounds.
The ice is a wall, and the water is an icebox. No need to dry it all.
Edward reached down with clumsy, half-thawed fingers and pulled a fish from the net. It was cold, firm, and glistening.
I called him a fool. I almost froze in my own cabin, and he's been living like a king out here.
We'll have fresh trout for breakfast tomorrow. This storm can't starve us.
Outside, the blizzard howled. Inside, the boat held everything they needed: warmth, still air, and a hidden larder beneath the ice. A deep, resonant groan vibrated through the hull, as if the ice were tightening like a fist around the boat.
It's breaking. The ice is crushing us.
Number, it's freezing harder. That's the sound of safety.
The ice, he explained, was expanding, not cracking. The wood flexed, and the groaning was the sound of every seam sealing tighter.
Safety? It sounds like the hull is about to splinter.
Wood bends. Ice cracks but doesn't shatter the boat. Without an air gap, there's no pressure point.
Edward reached out and pressed his palm against the cold, humming wood. The vibration slowed, settled, and faded.
It's holding. The ice is actually holding.
The storm outside was a white monster, but the boat sat firm in its frozen cradle.
Now you understand. The ice is not an enemy. It's the strongest ally a man could ask for.
The blizzard showed no mercy outside. Then, inside the boat, gray wisps of smoke began to curl back from the stove, hanging in the still air like a warning. Robert opened the damper and pressed his hand against the stovepipe. It was ice cold, completely blocked.
What's happening? That's smoke. We'll suffocate in here.
The pipe is choked with snow. The wind must have packed it solid. I'll have to go outside and clear it.
No, you can't go out there. The wind will kill you. You'll never make it back.
If I don't, we'll both be dead in an hour. The smoke will smother us faster than the cold ever could.
Robert pulled on his heaviest mittens, wrapped a thick scarf around his face until only his eyes showed, and grabbed the iron pole he used for fishing holes.
You stay here, keep the hatch ready to seal behind me, and Edward, if I don't knock in 5 minutes, you stay sealed. Don't come looking.
Edward grabbed his arm, his face desperate, but Robert pushed past, his jaw set like iron.
Trust me, I didn't build this boat to die in it.
Robert pushed the hatch open. The blizzard swallowed him instantly, ice pellets stinging his face like shards of glass. He crawled onto the icy roof, one hand gripping the stovepipe, and drove the iron pole through the packed snow. Chunks of ice fell away, and suddenly a plume of smoke shot into the wind. The pipe was clear. A savage gust tore at him. His boots slid on the ice, and he nearly went over the side, catching a rusty deck cleat with one hand. Ice crusted his eyes, but he held on, the wind screaming past his ears like a freight train. Hand over hand, he dragged himself back to the hatch. Edward's arm shot out, grabbed his collar, and heaved him inside. Edward slammed the hatch shut against the blast, and they collapsed in a heap, gasping for air. Robert's beard was frozen solid, but the stove was drawing clean, heat pouring from its iron belly.
I thought I'd lost you. You are either the bravest man I've ever met or the craziest.
Sometimes they're the same thing.
I owe you my life, Robert, and an apology. I was so wrong about you.
Apology accepted. Now we wait.
They sat in the cramped cabin, listening as the wind's primal scream gradually softened to a mournful whistle, the storm's fury finally starting to wane.
I'll never build another cabin without thinking of the cracks. You showed me stillness is the real defense.
Stillness and a good wall of ice.
The blizzard's rage dimmed to a whisper, the world beyond the iced-over porthole turning from chaotic white to a soft, steady glow.
I'd be frozen solid by now if it weren't for you.
The stove glowed deep orange, casting their faces in warm light, and the faintest gray seeped through the porthole, the first hint that the storm was passing.
We'll wait until it's light, then see what's left.
Inside the ice-locked boat, the candle still burned straight, and two men, once enemies, shared a silence that spoke of mutual respect and hard-won understanding. The wind outside fell completely still, leaving an eerie, breath-held silence.
Is it over? The storm? It's past?
Robert pushed open the frozen hatch. A cascade of powdery snow spilled inside, but above the sky held a pale, clean blue. They climbed out, blinking into the blinding white world, the boat a shapeless hummock of snow, stovepipe still smoking.
The boat held. She's buried, but she held.
The frozen lake stretched as one smooth, untouched drift, the blizzard having erased every feature of the shore.
I can't believe it. My cabin. What's left of it?
We'll find out. But first, let's check the ice.
Smoke still rose in a thin, straight column from the pipe, a sign that life persisted inside the ice-locked sanctuary. They stood together, two survivors on a white plain, the boat beneath them, a testament to stillness against the storm. They broke through the deep snow to where Edward's cabin had stood, now just a heap of twisted logs, the roof crushed by a frozen mountain of white.
It's gone. Everything inside, frozen solid.
As they stared at the wreckage, a figure appeared in the distance, small against the vast white, Emily, picking her way across the drifts.
Pa, please be alive.
She ran, her feet breaking through the crust, stumbling, rising and running again until she reached him.
I thought I'd lost you too. The whole town said no one could survive out here.
Easy, Emily. The boat held. I am all right.
She threw herself into his arms and wept against his frozen coat.
She was right all along. He built a fortress. I built a tomb.
And standing in the white silence, the wreck of the cabin stood as stark proof of what folly looked like in a land that forgave no mistakes.
I was the fool, Emily. Your father understood what none of us did. Inside that ice, it was warm, no draft. The still air kept us alive all night.
You really did it, Pa. You really survived.
The ice held. I told you stillness was the key.
We wouldn't have lasted another hour in my cabin. The wind was inside the walls. He saved my life. I called him a frozen fool, and he pulled me from the storm anyway.
He's not just my father. He's the strongest man in this valley.
Wind can't reach you if there's no path. Remember that when you rebuild, Edward.
I will. I'll caulk every seam twice. Nothing will breathe unless I let it.
And for the first time, the three of them stood together, not as antagonist and family, but as survivors of a storm that had changed everything. Robert led them back inside the boat and lifted the floor hatch, revealing the same dark hole in the ice. He pulled the net, and a dozen gleaming trout broke the surface, their scales still shimmering as if they'd been caught moments ago.
They're fresh? How can they still be fresh?
The cold doesn't kill things, Emily. It preserves them. The lake is one big icebox.
He didn't just survive the storm. He turned the whole winter into a larder.
Edward reached down and touched a fish. It was cold, firm and perfect. A marvel of cold preservation.
I called you a fool. Yet you had fresh food the whole time, while my cabin turned into an ice coffin.
The ice is not a threat. It's a tool. Stillness and cold can be a man's best allies if he listens to them.
The lake that was supposed to kill you kept you fed. Everything the town feared became your fortress.
And in that cramped, ice-locked cabin, the truth stood bare. The worst blizzard couldn't touch him because he had turned his enemy into his greatest ally. Spring crept over Frostbite, the ice retreating and the lake returning to liquid silver.
The whole town's been asking about your boat. They want to know how you did it.
It's just a boat, Em, but it taught me something.
What did it teach you?
That walls don't have to be strong. They just have to be still. No path for the wind.
They walked along the shore where the boat, now bobbed in open water, a simple wooden hull that had defied a generation's worst storm.
Next winter, I might build one better, caulk her seams until not a breath passes.
Then I'll help. Someone has to make sure you don't freeze out there.
Behind them, the town was different now. No one called him a frozen fool anymore, for Frostbite had learned a lesson it would carry through the coldest winters. The ice was not a threat, but a fortress waiting to be built. Edward Croft walked up to Robert, a rolled plan for his new cabin tucked under his arm.
I am caulking every seam this time, just like you showed me. No more drafts.
Good. Moving air is the real enemy.
They walked to the old foundation where Edward spread the plans, pointing out the double walls and triple seals.
I never understood stillness until I was inside that boat. Now I'll build with no path for the wind.
You'll sleep warm next winter.
They shook hands firmly. The grip held for a long moment, a friendship forged in the frozen dark.
I won't forget what you did, Robert.
Robert nodded. The boat bobbed gently in the melt pool, a quiet survivor, and the man who had once been called a fool stood beside the man he had saved, knowing that the coldest enemy could become the best of allies. Evening fell over the lake, and Robert Vance sat alone in the cabin of his boat, a cup of coffee cradled in his hands. The ice was gone now, the water black and still under the fading blue sky. He looked out the small porthole, a faint smile crossing his weathered face.
The boat held. And so did I.
It was just wood and pitch, a simple hull that had defied the impossible. But inside its timbers lived the lesson that would change a valley. For the rest of his days, people would remember the man who let his boat freeze into the lake, and they would understand that the worst storm couldn't touch him because he had turned the ice into his fortress. The boat floated gently on the calm water, a silent witness to a winter that had tested them all. And in the end, stillness had won.